Welcome to the Killer Author Club. 3 best-selling authors talking about killing, of the fictional kind, with the best thriller and suspense authors in the business. Killer conversations, killer cocktails, and killer guests with your hosts, Kimberly Bell, Heather Gutenkopf, and Kara Ruda. This is the Killer Author Club.
Hello, and welcome to the Killer Author Club, your favorite haunt for all things murder, mystery, and mayhem. Tonight, we are so excited to have Gilly MacMillan joining us for our very last show of 2025 to talk all things The Burning Library that came out just last week. So if you haven't picked it up already, you need to run out and grab it. Will she survive? We have tons of questions and so much killer fun planned. So buckle up and get ready to kill the lights. I'm Killer Heather Gutenkopf.
I'm Killer Gilly MacMillan.
And I'm Killer Kimberly Bell. Killer Kara couldn't be here tonight, but she sends her love and we send her some killer loving right back.
Before we dive into Gilly's fabulous book, a couple of quick PSAs. Tonight's show will be available this Friday as a podcast, including bonus content just for listeners. Find the links at killerauthorclub.com. And while you're there, sign up for our newsletter so you're the first to hear all our killer breaking news. And now, Kimberly, would you please introduce our very special guest?
I would love to. Gilly MacMillan is the internationally best-selling author of 8 novels, including The Manor House, The Perfect Girl, The Nanny, and The Long Weekend. A former art historian and photographer, Gilly studied at Bristol University and the Courtauld Institute of Art in London. She lives in Bristol, UK, with her husband and 3 children. Now, Gilly, would you give us a quick elevator pitch and tell us what The Burning Library is all about?
So The Burning Library is a thrilling tale of murder, obsession, and ruthless ambition set in a dark academia world. It has a brilliant young academic. It has secret societies of women. It has ancient manuscripts, and it has chilling secrets.
So good. It's so good. All right, readers, get chatty and drop your questions for our killer guest in the comments. But first, Heather, what are we drinking tonight?
Yes, tonight's drink is spiced port and brandy punch. Gilly, please tell us why this is the perfect drink to pair with your book.
This drink I chose because I think it's the exact drink that the shadowy members of the Institute of Manuscript Studies in St Andrews, who feature in my book, and St Andrews is in Scotland, for those who don't know, I think it's what they would serve to all of their new students at the beginning of the academic year to settle them into those cold, dark Scottish nights.
Yeah, love it. It is something you drink when it's cold.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
I got my water. All right. So we created the Killer Author Club so readers could get up close and personal with some of their favorite thriller writers. Our upcoming lineup is stacked with amazing killers: John Mars, Jenna Bloom, our very own Killer Kara, and so many more. For dates, times, past episodes, and our Killer 2026 lineup, surf to killerauthorclub.com. But tonight, it's all about The Burning Library. So Shari LaPena, Killer Shari, has said, fresh, fun, and full of thrills, The Burning Library is dark academia with a sly feminist twist. I love that about it. Deliciously entertaining, highly recommended. B.A. Paris, also a killer, says, Gilly MacMillan takes the thriller genre to a whole new level with The Burning Library, a beautifully written story of dark obsession and murderous ambition. Outstanding. So, Gilly, clearly you are a thrilling and incendiary killer. And now your answer to the killer question, where do you kill?
Well, I used to kill in kitchens and bedrooms and gardens, anywhere domestic, but now I kill in dark oak paneled corridors in hallowed and ancient institutions.
Transition.
Yes, you did. Yes, you do, Kildare. All right. So, kind of along those notes, then, let's start with the obvious. Like we talked before about how this is like secret societies of women, this feminist thing, and they're battling over this centuries old manuscript, I guess. So, what was the plot that started this whole story?
I think it was very much a love of books and the history of books. And I began to read about the start of it all when it was manuscripts that men used to, ride out on horseback to collect at a great risk to their life, and all the ancient history of books. And I also then was speaking to my son about it, and he said to me, have you ever heard of a manuscript called the Voynich manuscript? Because nobody has ever translated it. It's in Yale in the Beinecke, I hope I pronounced that right, Beinecke Library. And it's a mystery. And loads of people, have tried to decode it, linguists and all kinds have studied it. And nobody can. I thought, God, wouldn't it be fantastic to have a manuscript, a secretive manuscript like that at the heart of a novel? And I always love a story about somebody who has a talent. I love the idea of having a young academic who's up and coming but vulnerable because she needs to make her career. And maybe what if she got hired by people who were going to use her for something that she wasn't aware of when she accepted the job? And so I think, as is sometimes the way with books, it was a few ideas that came together at once, like that character and that sort of dark and ancient world.
Brilliant. And so, that brings me to you've got dark academia, historical intrigue, and these feminist power struggles, and these two opposing groups. Are they real organizations or are they out of your imagination? Can you tell us a little about?
I can possibly tell you, Heather. I can tell you, but then I have to tell you.
Which one are you a member of?
I'll let you guess. No, they are made up. But I was really thinking about, how in books like the Da Vinci Code and books like that, which I love. It's always men. It's always an organization of men. And I was thinking, well, how would it be different if the women kind of ran the thing? What if it was really female? What if everything was about us? And then I thought of one organization, and then the idea was, well, what if they split and they're battling each other in the ways that women might, because I think women have always had to be ingenious about how we kill, right? If you're going to murder your husband and you can't swing an axe and you can't do all the things that men might traditionally do, you get smart, you poison him slowly, or you use women's ways. Historically, poison is the number one used way for women to murder, and that's for good reason, because we didn't have access to much else. But anyway, so I made up this group, and then I thought, well, I need them to split. So I got my daughter involved because she loves studying kind of cults and things. She's into all of that stuff. And she said, well, what if they had a schism? What if at some point they began to disagree on how they were going to go about achieving their goal? And that's how she helped me come up with the St. Catherinites on the one hand, who are very traditional in the ways that they try and seek power. They don't try and overturn men, they try and work through them. And then the Larks, who they think we should be, they're fighting for equality with men in that sort of sense of that tradition. And the schism would have taken place around the time of the suffragettes, when women were starting to get out and fight. So that's the imaginary history.
Yeah. Well, I seriously thought they were real organizations. And I was a little worried for you, Gilly, because I thought, all their secrets, are they going to come after you? That's how realistic this was.
If I'm not here next year for the new book, you know what happens.
Yeah, and I thought it was brilliant too, because I keep coming back to the feminist thing, but like they're both working kind of towards the same thing, but their ways of going there are very different, which, I don't know. I think it's brilliant. And I think it kind of reflects maybe things that are happening in the world today too,
I think it could do. I certainly felt those echoes as I was thinking about them and writing about them. And there's so much of a rich history for both ways that
Mm-hmm.
that women exercise power. I got fascinated by some of the Roman emperors and their wives who were pulling strings through them and all of that kind of thing. There were so many research rabbit holes that I fell into. It was hard to get out.
I bet. So let's talk about the setting. You mentioned it before, St. Andrews, which is in Scotland, but it was, I mean, I felt the weather, I felt the colds, like this, the wind, and like, how did you capture that mood? It was almost like Gothic, right?
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy to hear you say that, because that's what I was going for.
Oh,
I
good.
wrote it all sitting here in my office in Bristol, and I wasn't sure the editors would love it. So the minute I had my edits back, I booked a flight to St. Andrews and went up there for a few nights with my husband, who actually studied there. So he was a great tour guide. And it is the most wild and extraordinary place. It's tiny, like gripping the cliff, and it's got this ancient history. I highly recommend a visit if you're ever in Scotland. And once I was there, it was easy. It was pitch dark, freezing, atmospheric, creepy, but also full of sort of life and history. And, you know, everywhere you looked, you could see a story if you're a novelist.
Mm-hmm. I loved it.
Well, you talked a little bit about rabbit holes, so that you found yourself in while researching the book. Are you naturally a history buff, or is this something that came about just because of, you know, the idea from your son? And what was like the most surprising thing you learned as you were researching this novel?
I think the most surprising thing I learned was how valuable books used to be, and how precarious our history is, and how much it relies on books being saved at certain key moments in history and gathered together and maybe locked in an old monastery somewhere for 100 years. So, you know, then rediscovered in some very, very precious and meaningful text that we really think of as something that could never have been destroyed these days, how that kind of thing was saved. I'm an art historian, so that's kind of my training. So I can fall down many rabbit holes around that kind of thing, but I don't have a very good memory, so I'd never be a very good history buff. I can't reel off dates.
I have that problem too. Dates, I'm like, that's why there's Google, so I can look it up. I don't have to remember it. Can we talk for a little bit about the embroidery scrap, because that's such an important and unique object in this book. How did you land on that? Was it inspired by something real?
Yeah, I was looking at old manuscripts and trying to think about what their component parts are, because I was trying to construct the mystery. And there's a tradition of binding them in embroidery, especially here in the UK, actually. So I started to look at that, and I couldn't believe how intricate they were. And some of them had gold thread and all sorts of things. And I thought, well, isn't that the perfect thing to be ripped into pieces if the book was being tousled over at some point? And so that's where it came from, really. And I also like the idea of, you know, women have always used craft as, you know, somewhere we can kind of hide secrets. You can hide messages in embroidery. You can hide symbols. You can do a great deal. I found out that in the war, grandmas used to knit. They would sit in Belgium in the window of their apartments, and as the trains went past into and out of Germany, they would either drop or add a stitch. And then this bit of knitting would be passed on, so that people would know how many trains were passing through and how many carriages they had. And it was a major source of intelligence in the war. And nobody suspected, because it's just a grandma sitting in a window knitting. So I kind of wanted to just, I don't mention it in the book, but just slightly touch on that history of crafting as a powerful tool of communication for women.
I love that.
That is yeah, so great. So let's talk about Detective Cleo Spicer. We meet her, as well as Dr. Anya Brown. Are they based on real people, or where did you get your inspiration for these very strong female characters that inhabit your world here?
I think Anya was inspired by my daughter's generation. They're just coming up now through, I think you guys have kids maybe around the same age. So mine are in their 20s now. And I just love their generation. I think they're amazing. And the way they kind of have met the world with the internet and all of these things. And I love the way they think. I love the way they talk. And I think Anya was inspired by that, by the idea of what it'd be like to come up now in a very traditional area of work, but, you know, kind of tackling the world at the same time. And Cleo, I just love her. She came really fully formed, actually. I really love a good detective, and I love a good female detective. You know, Scotland Yard women trying to make it in a really, really male environment. I think that's a tough character right there.
Mm-hmm. So how long did it take you to write this? There was so much research and so much detail. Like you had to have and you talked about the rabbit holes. Like, did it take you longer than normal to write?
It took me longer to kind of rev up to do it, to kind of be ready. The writing itself was probably too quick. It was a very bad first draft. But I was agonizing about whether to change direction from the more domestic thriller. So I probably didn't start it at the pace I should have. I was a little tentative, a little unsure about what I was doing. But then it came quite quickly by the end. So it was a funny one. Probably took 18 months all in, which is a bit longer than I would like.
Yeah. Yeah.
How was this process different than from your other books? You've written psychological thrillers, and so how was this a little bit different for you? What was
it was a lot harder to be a pantser, which is my natural.
Oh gosh, how do you pants a book like this?
Well, you don't do it very well, if you mean. You do a huge structural edit for the second draft. So that was the challenge. It was adjusting my way of working. I'm a bit chaotic on a first draft, and that was a real struggle. So I'm doing another similar book now, and I'm being a lot more organized for the first time in my career, actually. So it's nice to be on a learning curve. It's a challenge, but I'm finding it quite fun to try and change the way I work.
Yeah. It's interesting. With each book, we learn something new about ourselves as writers, and it's fun to take a leap of faith and try something a little different.
It is. Are you guys plotters, or do you wing it?
And I'm like a super organized plotter, like color-coded spreadsheet kind of plotter. Wow. Kara,
need to have a
three of
seminar
us, is like the pantser. But she flies through her drafts.
Okay.
Like super fast. And then Heather is in the middle.
I'm kind of in the middle. Okay. I started out as a pantser and have inflicted too many wounds with that.
I think that's it, right? Like, yeah, it is more work on the front end.
Yeah.
But you had to do the work anyway, because you were doing all the research and you were thinking, and all that time you're doing research, your brain is thinking, maybe not consciously, but certainly subconsciously, about the plot. So, it is more work on the front end, but I think then the drafting phase and editing phase is a lot more fun.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and that's what I would like to spare myself in future, is all that chaos.
Yeah. Because you talked about, was this before we went on the air? Now I can't remember. You mentioned Dan Brown. It's a very Dan Brown-esque story, kind of maybe meets Donna Tartt. But have you thought about, like, if it were going to be adapted for screen, do you have like a dream cast?
Oh, I have not thought about that, but that would be so much fun to do. I'll come back on one day if it is.
Yeah, right. We're writing that one down.
Yeah.
This cover is amazing. And the title is amazing. So if your library, God forbid, was burning, what's the one book you would grab and run out with?
I actually have a signed
question.
No, I do know the answer to this, actually. I would probably never recover from the total loss, but I have a signed copy of The Secret History. It's not in good condition, but it is signed, and that's very special.
Yeah.
That would be one.
I'd say that one too.
Yeah, what a book that is. Wow.
For sure.
Right. And here I come back to the feminist thing again.
Mm.
But like, do you have like a personal, like what makes female rivalry like this thing that you wanted to explore?
I just wanted to explore female power and where we get it and where we don't get it. And, you know, I'm a kind of that age where you sort of emerge from raising your family with, I'm just speaking for myself, but, you know, I feel some rage about, you know, women's opportunities. And I wanted to really think about, you know, because I've been a housewife, but I'm also now a writer. So I feel like I've seen a few ways that you can be as a woman. You're very much defined by motherhood and your marriage, and then also defined separately by your career. And I think a lot about attitudes towards my career amongst people I know. And I just love to explore women's roles and what it's like for us and how we operate. And, you know, I'm fascinated by female networks. I think women are really, really good at networks. Strong female friendships, strong female networks. And I think that's something that really played into my conception of these groups in the book. And they're often, these networks, quite powerful socially, but never really acknowledged. So that was something I thought about a lot.
I love it.
Yeah. So you've written psychological thrillers, family dramas, dark academia. Is there a genre that you'd like to tackle, a different one, or one that you were like, I am absolutely not going to tackle this genre?
I could probably say that both of those statements apply to historical fiction. I think it would take me 10 years, but I'd love to do it.
Yes.
That's interesting because this one has so much, history that is kind of driving the plot, but you wouldn't write a historical?
I would be so nervous about being in the period. I think I would. I'm such a perfectionist and completionist. I think I would never stop reading to try and get it right.
Right.
I think I'd find it hard to settle on a voice. So this way I felt like, well, I can use some of that to make a mystery, but I don't have to bring it to life.
Yeah.
What era would you set your hypothetical historical fiction book in?
Well, wouldn't it be fun to do time travel through a bunch of them?
Oh, yeah. I love a time travel novel. But it is hard. So I've written a historical. It's set in the 80s.
Have you?
No,
Oh, the 80s.
It's officially a historical novel. But, you know, I was alive during it. I think it would be really, and I remember the 80s.
Yeah.
I think it would be really hard to write a novel where you weren't alive for it. And the further back you go, the harder I think it gets because, you know, the language is different, like all sorts of things that you don't even really think about. Yeah. But your readers sure will, and they will point them out if you get
the letters you'll get, the messages. Yeah, that's one of my things. It's just like, you just know, I know I would mess it up. I know I would for the purists. Yeah. But 80s, that's interesting. That I could do. I can remember that too.
So much fun. Oh my gosh. Well, we could talk for hours about the Burning Library. So good. But Gilly is giving away 5 copies of the Burning Library, 5 of them. Let me find my graphic for this. I'm sorry. There it is. 5 copies to UK and US viewers. It doesn't matter where you're watching. We scour the comments everywhere we stream, but please make sure you shout out where you're from. And then you need to answer this question. What country is the Burning Library set in? So answer that question and you can get a chance to win one of 5 copies.
Love it. All right. So the Killers are big fans of independent booksellers, and we want to highlight and send them all the support. Gilly has chosen Max Minerva's books in Bristol tonight. So Gilly, tell us why you love Max Minerva's books so.
Max Minerva's is terrific. It's a small independent bookstore near to where I live. They really know their readers. They are so good at bringing in the books that people want to read and getting them out there and talking about them. And they run a terrific events program. They do all the things that indies do so well. They're brilliant.
Love it. Well, I will be dropping the link in the comments for our UK viewers, and then the bookshop.org link for viewers in the US, so you can order the Burning Library along with any other books and support your indies.
Well, and obviously, we killers, we love to read, and we love it when you post and share what you're reading in our Facebook group. So post pictures, write reviews, ask for recommendations, and give yours. Tonight, though, we really want to know, Gilly, what have you been reading lately and loving?
So I've been lucky enough to read a proof of Sherry LaPena's new one. Oh, I don't know if you guys have read that yet. It's called Getting Away with Murder. And of course, as all Sherry's thrillers are, it's absolutely brilliant. Page turner. It'll be out next year. So when you can get your hands on that, I highly recommend that you do.
Love it. I love a good early read, and Sherry never disappoints.
No.
We also have 3 fabulous new releases we want to celebrate tonight. First, we have The House Sapphire by Marissa Meyer. This fresh spin on the legend of Bluebeard is a tale that's perfect for readers who like their romantasy with a side of murder. And who doesn't, right? We also have The Place Where They Buried Your Heart by Christina Henry. A woman must confront the evil that has been terrorizing her streets since she was a child in this gripping haunted house novel from the national best-selling author of The House That Horror Built and Good Girls Don't Die. And finally, we have Coyote Hills by Jonathan and Jesse Kellerman. When a man washes up dead on the shores of San Francisco Bay with a head injury and drugs in his system, P.I. Clay Edison is immersed in a horrifying tangle of betrayal and lies as he searches for the truth. Marissa is giving away 2 copies of The House Sapphire. Christina is giving away 1 copy of The Place Where They Buried Your Heart, and Jonathan and Jesse are giving away 3 copies of Coyote Hills, all to U.S. viewers. Comment if you want in and tell us where you're from, and good luck. And because we're all about shamelessly plugging our own murdery fun, don't miss the Killer's latest reads.
Kara's got We Were Never Friends, a sorority reunion that takes a very, very dark turn. Pre-order now before the party gets started, and she'll send you freebies.
And speaking of deadly parties, Heather's serving up The Perfect Hosts, an over-the-top gender reveal party that explodes in more ways than one.
And Kimberly's taking you on a deadly European getaway in the expat affair. 2 Americans, the glittering diamond trade, and danger in Amsterdam. And of course, if you hang out with us on Facebook, come join our secret lair, the private members only Killer Author Club. Every episode, we draw a name from the hat for some killer swag, t-shirts, mugs, candles, you name it. Jump in and join in the fun and peek at all the goodies at killerauthorclub.com. And we give away some of the swag from our store, and we have the winner as Brenda Gaskell. So Brenda, if you're watching, make sure you drop us a note and we will get that right off to you. Want to be the next winner? Join us. The link is coming up in the comments. And also a big killer thanks to a book reporter for sharing the murdery love. Stay up to date on bookish news and events at bookreporter.com.
So, Gilly, we have some excellent news. You have survived the Killer Author Club. That makes twice.
Thank goodness. Yes.
Amazing. Well, so tell us where our listeners and viewers can find you.
Well, they can find me mostly on Instagram at Gilly MacMillan.
Okay.
Oh, and a website, www.gillymacmillan.com. That's it.
Awesome. Yes.
Okay, great. Well, that's a wrap on tonight's episode. Thanks for hanging out with us. We're taking a little break for the holidays, so we'll see you right back here in the new year on January 6th with John Mars and his latest, Dead in the Water. Until then, you can find us wasting entirely too much time on Instagram, Facebook, and occasionally TikTok. And if you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to our channel. For links, upcoming schedule, past episodes, and merch, head to killerauthorclub.com. And thanks for being a part of the club.
Thank you for having me.
That does it for tonight's show. Thank you for tuning in. If you'd like to catch our next show live, we're every other Tuesday night on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. For times, upcoming schedule, and to catch up on past episodes, visit us at killerauthorclub.com. Happy reading. Now get on out there and kill that TBR.